Live.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the July planning committee meeting. And the first item on the agenda, some general discussion with Eric's Council Director, Jack Sweeney. You're welcome to come up to the podium or sit in one of the seats, whatever you like. You have handouts. Okay.
No, there's no live mics on these. The only live mics are the pops.
Okay.
Yes, Jackie. I can pass this out. So.
Okay. Got it. Just point at me.
These are.
Yes, these are on my Yes, here.
But you can actually leave it, because I just,
You got that?
I'm always grateful to be given the opportunity to share with you guys, things that are happening in the arts community, and, this is a little bit different. We are actually, I'm approached quite often, by other cultural organizations outside of Wyoming to sit on committees, to get our input on blah, 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 blah. And so this is another one of those opportunities. The Western New York Foundation and the Community for Greater Buffalo reached out to us to participate in what they hope to be an area-wide cultural plan. I feel quite proud in saying that Wyoming County is one of the few organizations that do have a cultural plan. It was one of the first initiatives that I had the opportunity to guide when I started in 2008. We received a grant and we established a cultural plan for Wyoming County. So I have a little bit of experience in participating in the cultural plan. It usually takes about 6 months to a year to have all of that in place. There has never been a cultural plan done for Western New York. And so these two communities, these two organizations that I mentioned earlier, the Western New York Foundation and the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo, they have received some funds from the arts. They are willing to put some fund from the two entities as well, because they're both funding organizations, to spearhead the creation of a cultural plan for our region. We are also in the process of writing an NEA grant due the 4th of August. And so what they are asking those of us that are at the table for this project is to ask our county legislators if they would lend support as well. The first support that we are looking for is for a letter of support that needs to be submitted to the National Endowment for the Arts. The grant that is being proposed, that's being submitted to the National Endowment for the Arts is called Art Talent. So they require local community support. They want to see that. I actually brought a copy of the letter of support that the Orleans County legislators have submitted. It doesn't have to be in, it's just, a short to say that we, leave the park, blah, 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 blah. And I have 5 copies, so if you want to, I'm guessing the letter would need to come from you, Becky, so I can give you a copy just to give you an idea. But so I'm just coming to ask for your support through a letter that will, validate your support. And then they're also asking if you would consider making a monetary support as well. At this point, they've not established any kind of benchmark as to what they're hoping to have from all of the different counties. This is quite widespread. We're including obviously the Arts Council of Miami County, Go Art, which serves Genesee and Orleans County. GBCA that serves Livingston and Monroe County. And of course, all of the Erie County organizations, arts organizations, and so on. So this will be all encompassing of all of the cultural organizations in all of these counties. And so they really want to see that collaborative support that the NEA, National Endowment for the Arts, is also looking for, because that's going to be a critical role in leveraging the dollars that we will be able to get through that fund as well. So I'm really hoping that we will be front and center as part of that collaborative effort. Like I said, you should all be proud that Wyoming County has a cultural plan that has helped to guide our work here in the county and how we serve our community through arts and cultural programs. And it would be nice to have that broader or beyond our borders cultural plan where we can begin to see and experience even more collaborative programs and a greater guide for the arts and cultural programs and activities that will happen in our community. So I'll be happy to take any current questions before I go on to the other piece of information I wanted to share with you today. And I'll give this to you, Becky. There are 5 copies here if you want to share that over. That just gives an idea of the level of support that one needs for ours.
Jackie, do you know the value of the grant award or the grant?
We don't, because they determine what they give to the community.
Okay.
So, but it's usually pretty significant.
Okay.
Jack, what's the financial commitment from the county that's?
So that's what I said earlier, we're not sure exactly what they're asking, you know, what numbers. That is something that other smaller counties like us have also asked, but they've not determined that as yet. What is most critical right now is to get that letter of support that.
So the bill's coming later.
Yeah, so, and I mean, from our preliminary meetings, none of our meetings, they've made a figure. They just want to make sure that everyone is going to participate in this, you know, and I would be probably so bold as to say, they're probably going to ask us to do what we can financially. So there won't be like a, you know, a hard number as, you know, you got to get whatever. Just please don't take it out of the little pittance that we already get.
Now, those dollars come directly from the NEA and not through the New York State Council of Mayors.
Yeah, so the NEA is totally different from the New York State Council. The New York State Council of Arts actually receives funding from the NEA.
Okay.
So a lot of our grants that we write to the national to the New York Council of the Arts, there is usually a section where we have to answer questions if we have received any grants.
See.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if they're asking for funding, then it would be like a match for the grant, or is it Go Art asking for funding?
No, so this is just a sample of a letter of support that was sent specifically to Go Art.
Okay.
Yeah, so that just gives you an idea of the kind of letter of support you can write. Because GOARD reached out to, GOARD serves Orleans and Genesee County. So that was their letter to him. They now received a letter of support from the Genesee County legislators yet, because they had some concerns. They wanted to make sure that this was not going to be a cultural plan that was going to be sitting on a shelf somewhere, which is totally valid, you know. And I can say for sure that our cultural plan that we created, you know, I think it was finished in 2010. We had used it, you know, and in addition to our mission and our vision, it guides all of the programs, activities, everything that we do is guided by that cultural plan, our mission and our vision. Because without a plan, it's chaos.
So Jackie, it may be helpful for the chairwoman if you could maybe draft a letter that she could review, and like it says what you would like it. And then if that's something that she's comfortable signing, it says what you want to say and she's comfortable with it, that would be helpful.
Sure, I don't have a problem with that, if that's okay.
Yeah, that would be great because this seems to be specific to the art.
Right, like I said, that was just an idea of what you could write, you know, because it doesn't, because sometimes people hear letter of support and they think, oh, I have to write a thesis or something like that.
Which is why I decided
Yeah.
to send over what you
And
think.
I have no problem with that, but I just want to make sure I get all the details.
Yeah. So the other topic I wanted to just briefly touch on, and Cheryl passed out those letters. Can you pass that out for me?
Which one?
So the Creative Rebuild New York. In fact, if you pass out the newsletters and the cards as well too, but the letter is the thing that I'm gonna talk about right now.
Okay.
Or it's a press release actually. And I'm assuming that some of you may have seen this press release because it was sent out. When we do a press release, it goes to about 70 different resources, which includes print, media, audio, visual. You know, that's the breadth that we submit our press releases to. So you may have seen it in one of our local newspapers, but I just wanted to personally address it to you guys because I wanted to make sure there were no misconceptions regarding this funding. First of all, GOARD is the lead organization in this, so the administrative part of the funds is going directly to them. So in February, actually, I'll go further than that. In October of last year, I was part of another committee that was invited to give our ideas and thoughts regarding what payment, the hiring of artists and paying them a living salary would look like. And this was, they conducted a think tank of organizations and groups all around the state. The Mellon Foundation determined that they wanted to create this model to pay artists for 2 years and so that they could actually do art and not try to be holding down 3, 4 other jobs and struggling to put food on the table. So the end product ended up being 300 artists in New York State were selected. It was a very competitive project. So we identified, or artists reached out to us well early because a press release was sent out that there were going to be 2 pots of money. One for artists who could receive $2,000 every month for 2 years to do art. And then there was another pot of money where 300 artists were going to be selected to receive a salary of $65,000 a year, plus all kinds of benefits. And but they would have to be under the banners of organizations. So yes, indeed, these artists are making more than all of the EDs in all these arts organizations in the Globe region. So over 2,000 organizations applied, and we applied collaboratively with the other two, what we call Globe Arts Councils. The process started in February. We had weekly meetings. We had to prepare a ton of questions. The artists also had to contribute to specific questions, and we made the first cut that was whittled down to 300, and then there was 167, I think, organizations from all over the state that were selected, and we got to be one out of the first 2,000, however many organizations. So that in itself is pretty impressive, and we're deeply grateful for this opportunity to serve some of our artists. Of course, it's only each organization gets to work with 10 artists. So 10 artists are employed by the Global Arts Councils, but we're not paying their salary. Their salary is being paid by the Mellon Foundation, and they got their own organization that takes care of all of their payroll and everything like that. And then the organizations receive, and this is for 2 years, so each artist will receive $65,000 each year for 2 years. And the organizations that are facilitating this project will receive, or is receiving, because the project started on the 23rd of June, $100,000 each year for administrative support. And what that includes is hiring new staff if you need to do that. So we needed a marketing person for this, to market this whole project. And then the leftover money is used for actually paying for marketing and supplies, art supplies. So I wanted to make sure that you know about this and to let you know that when we submit our request to the legislature, please do not, what do I want to say, penalize us by thinking that we have all this extra money, because we don't. Not a penny of this money is actually going to us administratively. It's all for community, for the community. And what is lovely, what we do get is programming. So like, I know I've talked with Becky several times about us bringing programs to the Connect 55 community. Now we're ready to do that. We have an artist that is ready to go and conduct workshops there every week, whatever, with this group. We can bring a lot more programming to an organization, to an institution like that, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be enriching our community with a lot more art programs throughout, and these artists, they have to be willing to travel wherever. So if we want to present a program in Attica, Arcade, Wyoming, wherever, they're essentially working for us. So it's bringing a richer, diverse art experience to Wyoming County that we're not paying for, but it's not putting any more administrative dollars into our individual organizations. I just wanted to bring that bit of education to you so that when you see our annual application, that you don't need our annual funds that we have been receiving from the organization from the county for years. And then, I passed on the newsletter. We do mail the newsletter to all of you, but I never know if you guys are getting it, so whenever I have an opportunity to visit, I like to bring my newsletter. And, the card, is promoting a phenomenal art show that opens up next Friday. Will be potters and woodworkers, so that's why it's called From Earth and Trees. And then my last little PR clip is our classical piano concert that happens on this Friday. And we actually need more bodies, we need more ticket purchasers, so if you are looking for something totally different to do that you've never done before, you might want to come and check out our classical piano concert. Kathy Hendershot lives up in the hills of Warsaw, and she's phenomenal. So it's one of our own, so we should come and support her.
Mr. Summers playing as well.
No, he's just gonna be introducing her, yeah. So, any questions? Leftover
A few,
stuff that I can
I feel,
take?
yep. I guess somebody.
All right, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Gavin. Is it Saturday, Jack?
Friday.
Moving on, next item on the agenda is the space allocation discussion. Mike Horton, Dave is on vacation or off today, and so you're here from jail, and of course, Mr. Adams asked for rounds. And I received a call last Friday from Mr. Winter, the committee heads up if you guys. One thing that maybe you want to do, is to kind of set the stage with this whole act, okay, so we understand where the, what the drivers are.
Okay, on March 21st, on March 2021, the New York State Legislature passed the HALT Act. This went into effect on March 31st of this year. In essence, I can't lock anybody down for any type of disruption, assault on staff, assault on any other inmates at all. I cannot do that, okay? And that's just not in county jails, it's in New York State correctional facility as well. As you can see, I don't have a lot of hair left, I'm pulling it out. The law, I got the law a week before it went into effect. So trying to abide by the law with no help from the state by any means has been trying. So basically, in a nutshell, our facility, as you know, is 32 years old. I've been here since the jail was opened. We cannot house disruptive inmates in a secure location the way the jail stands as of today. And what that means is I have to allow the inmates, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, out all day long, and have them continually assault staff or inmates, okay? I need a space to segregate them, but still allow them to be out for a lot of the time required by the law. Currently, our female mass area has 2 cells that I can allow that to happen, and they have to be really separated by some sort of a fence in between them. And the rest of the facility, I cannot do that. May of this year, the commission came out and walked through the sheriff and myself to try to determine if we could take a section of housing and apply it and maybe do some little bit of construction. And there isn't any area. Maybe one of our dorms, I'd only get 2 cells. With that being said, I talked to Mike, I talked to the sheriff, I talked to the undersheriff, we may have some sort of maybe a plan to add on to the back of the jail. 5 cells to be able to segregate problem inmates. And still allow them their out of cell time per the state, and provide better security and safety for my staff and the inmates. Currently, I don't know if you know this, I have 5 officers still out on 207C because of injuries and assaults to them. I probably have 1 officer that will not be returning to work. Okay, those officers, the earliest they're going to come back, any of them is October, a year after they got them. Okay, it's not because of training, it's just the way it is. And so I need to be able to segregate those problem inmates away from other inmates and away from staff in a secure location. We also have an issue with being able to supervise constant watch inmates, which would mean somebody that's on a medical watch, a suicide watch, a mental health watch. Currently, what we do, we place an officer one-on-one with an inmate in the infirmary. Not a real good location for them to be at. Monroe County has a horseshoe, which is very similar to the setup as you have here. 1 officer can watch 6 to 8 inmates at one time on a constant watch. The way that I'm looking at doing it, we would have 1 officer that could probably watch up to 3 inmates at one time. Okay, so it's kind of like I'm trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. And Mike, if you want to add on to.
Yeah, I just have, I spoke with the sheriff about this, and he was adamant not wanting to lower the bed count in the facility. Right now, 30 years ago, when the building was designed, it was designed to go up. If we needed to alter the building to add a story, well, right now, that's just not feasible because they already have staffing issues. What we're looking to do is add on to the back of the building, where current staff can oversee these 5 cells. So we're not adding employees, we're just adding building space. It would be a very large project to do so with there's a lot entailed with the secure facility. We're not looking at the old steel bars over windows. We're looking at glass doors and 100% viewable spaces for these combative or inmates that are just out of their minds. It would take an architect's design, and we were going to reach out to the company, the firm that designed the building originally, to see if they can come up with something that would be adequate for what's being asked. But the HVAC, the electrical, the plumbing, there's bathrooms in each of these cells. There's HVAC equipment to add. It's a very, very large project. We know that with just doing the training center, that's just a steel shell that we're renovating. We're looking at $300 a square foot. I'm thinking we're more along the lines of our small rotunda, which was $1,100 a square foot. It's going to be very expensive to do this project. None of it can be done in-house. And I don't know the time frame, what we're up against, but it's got to happen sooner than later.
Just to touch what Mike said, a lot of the other county jails are in way better shape than we are because of the way that their jail was initially built. Ours, and if you have any questions, I would love to give all the supervisors a tour of the facility and explain to you the problems that we are looking at, why we can't just take what we have and renovate it to make it work. It's impossible. It's really impossible. I don't have a time frame other than yesterday. Actually, March 31st, that's what was my time frame that was given to me a week before that. The state, as you all know, doesn't say that it's a mandate, but it's a requirement, or it's something that you have to do, but we're not gonna paint ourselves in the corner and do all of that. I know that considered on board. So, we can't, this is something that we can't kick the can down the road, okay? This is something that, we have 2 inmates over there right now that I could house in this area. But because I can't lock them down, we're very lenient in what we're doing, okay? This is like full circle from when I started. I never, 32 years ago, that's what thought me in this where we're at. I implore you to think about this, come over. I will gladly give you a tour. Genesee County, they're building a new jail. Livingston County, when I was over there 2 months ago, their legislator is providing them $100,000 to renovate a couple areas in their facility to meet these needs. We're lucky that we're under 500 beds, because if we weren't, we would have to completely build a rehabilitation unit to meet the state guidelines, which would implore hiring mental health professionals 24/7 to be on staff there, along with extra officers and what have you. So, is there any questions that you have of me? I know I'm going to be at public safety tomorrow and laying out the HALT Act, but each cell has to have, and I'm gonna make this rudimentary, has to have a 5x5 dog run, if you will, out in front of the cell, so that they are not locked in their cell, they can get out and roam around. That's what we're looking at. A cell with a day cell, they call a cell day space, which is no more than the state minimum of 5x5 fenced in area to take out of their cell locker for up to 7 hours a day. So currently, I have to house males in the infirmary cell and then move them physically to our holding area for those 7 hours a day. And if we have bookings like we most generally do every day, I can't meet those state requirements. So as of right now, we're turning a blind eye onto a lot of rule breakers that I can't enforce. If that makes sense.
We're limited to with the footprint. I think everybody knows that. Over the past few months, we've talked about what the campus here has to offer for any more building space. I think like you had measurements of like 28 feet, to be able to expand 28 feet off the building by maybe 50 feet wide. We're not looking at a heck of a lot of space to complete a big dream, but it takes it right up to the historian's building there, and it would not alter parking situation or that rear lot, but that's all we have to work with. We're really limited on what we can do with lesbian camps.
And then part of this project would have to go into the female master area. Currently, I have to put some sort of a fence with a door in between to separate those 2 max cells currently to meet the state requirements. So, if you have any questions?
Is Genesee County Jail, when is that looking to be completed?
3 years, maybe 2 or 3 years.
Are they the same boat as us right now? I mean,
They don't, Genesee County's layout is different than ours. It's old, but it's different. So they are able to meet state requirements for being able to house.
I only ask because I know we house a lot of their inmates, and if we could do a little trading,
We
Or
house
something.
Genesee County females.
Yeah.
Okay? We were taking their males during COVID. But now that the law's changed, I mean, I'm not saying we can't take people in, but if they were assaulted, I have nowhere to physically put them.
no, I'm saying in Genesee County, if we took our assault to Genesee County. I mean, it's been years since I've seen us pay another fine. I guess recently.
We could, it's gonna cost you money.
Well, I just didn't know how much this is gonna cost, so I just didn't know if that was cost benefit analysis we wanted to look at, or how, I don't know what the population is at present. Right, I mean-
It just depends.
I think that's the problem. You could have 2 people one week, or you could have 10 people the next week.
And I, in Genesee, I can't guarantee that they will take them. We might have to truck them
Yeah.
all the way downstate. So, because that's what Genesee County is now with their females, they have them all over the state. So and we can't guarantee that I can, place somebody on an SJO, which is substitute jail order, anywhere near here. You know, we might have to truck them down to New York City. So, and be at their whim as to what they're gonna charge us.
So, both the square footage requirement, you have an idea of what that is in terms of what we might need.
I don't, currently I don't, just, we drew up kind of a rough design, trying to fit everything in. In our minds, it would work, that space we could make work, but it's for a design, somebody who does design and the architects figure out if we meet that.
And would this be a single or 2-story?
Single
Single story, okay.
I know what the minimum for a cell is 60 square feet. Everything we have over there right now is 80 square feet. We can cut it down by 10, but I have to have some sort of a sub area in front of that cell, which is also secured, which is at least 25 square feet. So.
And we have a physical space that that's county owned.
So what we have right now is we have a fenced in area that is used as I believe it's like a fire, just in case of a fire area that you can move inmates into behind the jail. It's never been used for anything that I can think of, but it's a fenced in area, blacktop. And that, I want to say that is within 10 feet of the historic rear ramp. And then there may be 10 feet between the ramp and the building. So we're very limited space-wise. It would have to be, we have to stay away from that house back there for sure. Working that, but I think that's what that figure was that 28 feet off in the back of the jail.
Actually, it was, I think when I measured, it was 37 feet from the building to really close to the ramp, and then 57 feet across. So, and again, we would have to work with an architect and commission inspections to make sure we're, within everybody's specifications. But I just did something wrong. So, sure.
Yeah, but each cell would have, like I said, plumbing, each cell would have, toilet. We're possibly looking at an additional officer's restroom on that end of the building. Things like that have to be incorporated as well.
And a shower area that we would utilize in that area for showers for those, I'm gonna call them difficult inmates or inmates that we have to segregate from the rest of the population. So we're not doing what we are now, moving all over the facility for a shower. Because that's how at least 2 of my houses got hurt, so.
Obviously, the state is not throwing any money out there for us, so.
So,
Couple rules, throwing some rules out.
But
So basically, I figured it's probably 1.5 million.
I would say, for a small space like that, it's,
What was the number?
1.5 million. That's based on the square footage, 1,100 per square foot.
and that's an estimate at this point, sure. Without being involved and then having it estimated as a secure facility. And that would be that's always our go-to, is we need to have something designed and then take that design to somebody that can estimate that spec. So I agree, that's Genesee, that county's website, and look at the price of their project that they're doing and the millions and millions of dollars that are being spent on that facility is absolutely crazy. That you can't even begin to come up with a per square foot budget because of. Yeah, it's absolutely nuts.
So is it your desire to engage the architect to design?
Correct. I think that would be our building blocks, is to hire a firm to come out, site inspect what's here, take the plans we have, to see how things can be altered with the HVAC and the electrical and plumbing, design a space that'll suit what we want in a space or in the area that we're asking to do so. And then taking that plan and going out and putting a price tag on it.
So is that a request then it would be taken to public safety to engage in architectural firm?
Correct. This is just an FYI for the space, of course.
And then obviously you subsequently finance.
And I'm gonna make a statement, I'm assuming you've already looked at the idea of that 7 hours a day, you gotta give these inmates freedom of doing it in shifts.
I can only do that during unlock times, which is 7 in the morning till 10 at night. Yes, and yes, here's the issue. I still have to provide them with all the programming that is allowed to them during the day. I have to let them know for that programming, visits, all that, incorporate that in, but on a one-on-one basis. And if I have more right now, if I have more than 2 male inmates, I can't do it. Actually, I can't even do it today.
Well, if we build this, I think you said 5,
5.
so we'll be maxed at a number of 5. And the way things are going nowadays, we're gonna have more than that.
We let them out without bail.
So that's it, they're letting them out without bail. The kid that was attacking the cops in New York City, yes. I don't know, yeah, they let him out. Physically punching him in the face and letting him out, and he's a 3-2 defender.
I don't know. Preaching to the choir.
There's no,
Great bunch of laws we have that you guys didn't even have a say in. This all got done with the legislators down towards New York City, and this got pushed through. So, and I have the law, and I will provide a copy of that if you would like it to read through. Because it is the worst thing I think I've ever read in my life.
When that was debated,
For almost 32 years.
when it was debated on the floor, the Republican conference debated it, and we were told by the Democratic conference, it's 1 in 5. 1 million in 5 years to fight it. They know that it's not a good law, but that's what they always say to us, 1 in 5. They want it all fought in the court system. They don't, they just want to pass it. Let it work its way through the court system and decide whether it's justified or not.
Well, we're paying the price for,
Absolutely,
the horrible conditions in places like Rikers Island.
Right.
And you've got some progressive
oh, absolutely.
legislators who,
You have some communist legislators in this state.
it's crazy.
It is crazy. And like I said, I've been doing this almost 32 years. I beat my head against the law every day, trying to assure that we're being in compliance and
And you get very little direction from
I got it.
corrections.
I got it. no direction from the commission directions at all, other than when they came out on the 25th. And I told Terry Moran, look, you've been in our jail before. I can't make this happen here. He came out, we spent, him and another gentleman, spent probably 4 hours on the camera. He goes, yeah, well, you're right. You can't make this happen. So you gotta figure out something different. So that's why I'm here.
Okay, well, we appreciate that. It's late.
Thank you for having me. Is there any other questions I can answer for you right now?
What if we don't comply?
Well, if we don't comply, I can't do anything to any inmate that assaults staff or other inmates. We're just gonna let them stay out. And I'm gonna retire.
What if you lock them down? What's the
I can't lock
repercussions?
them down. I can't. If I do, we're gonna get dinged by the commission. The sheriff's gonna get a letter. There could be a lawsuit from that inmate for me keeping them bound in a cell longer than he should.
And they all know their rights.
They know,
Yeah.
oh, it was all plastered all over the TV the week that this went into effect,
Right.
and they know that.
So you gotta give them an extra 25 square feet outside your cell.
Pardon me?
You gotta give them an extra 25 square feet outside your cell
Yes,
during that 7 hours.
yes.
What if we increase the size of our cell by 25 feet?
No, it has to be
And put two
outside,
walls.
it has to be outside of that living space, which include that is their cell. We have to give them sub-A space. I have to, that's a no law.
Right, I mean, well, we just put five by five in front of every stall.
I can't. I want you to come over so I can show you that.
I'm just saying increase the size of the, put two stalls together or
But I
split a stall and make it big enough and then put a divider in there to say, this is your stall, your cell, this is your 25 foot, that's a free space.
Right. But the current layout of the facility, I cannot do that. I can't.
Then you're decreasing your bed count,
Yeah.
which has been done once before, is what the sheriff had said, and they don't want to move forward with that. This facility, shrinking the facility is correct, isn't going to work.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Who designed the jail? Not
It's the plans, it's, I believe it's MVP, it's the architect that- or facility out of Rochester, the engineering firm. So that was gonna be my first step, is to talk to somebody there. I had talked to the sheriff about that, possibly getting their eyes, and, some of those people are still there from 30 years ago. And see if there's anything we can do, anything we're missing. But that kind of stalled out, and then your walkthrough, they're telling you, you really can't. The design with the balcony system and the stairways and ground level is actually not ground level within those cells. It's very difficult. I can see your point, Brian,
Yep.
and adding something to those spaces, but you're altering the entire inside of that building then. Because you're actually, ground level in a cell is actually 3 foot below ground level outside here. So there's nowhere to go without taking all of that floor space out of the existing building.
We have even talked about on the mezzanine, on the upper floors, upper cell, of blocking it in for 2 cells. But then we're gonna have to put in another stairway. We're gonna have to put in security doors in that area. And we have to put in another entrance into the cell block itself. And in order to put in another stairs, I have to have, Don come and it just won't work. Because we have to put 2 sets of stairs in, and it would be a nightmare to do that on any second tier level we have.
It just wasn't designed for these laws. It wasn't designed for the system we had.
And of course, your next challenge we have we have a staff to watch
Well,
all of these events.
correct, I mean, yes, well, our thought process is, where the fire gate and the door that goes outside now is to make that continue the hallway that goes into this area, so that we wouldn't have to, or if we had a watch, we have to put somebody on anyways for that watch. It'll be overtime or whatever, we understand that. And that section we may not have utilized every day, but it's there. And like I said, right now, I have 2 inmates that I could put in there because of their behavior. I still have 2 inmates that are there in Rochester, Sykes are there, gotta come back to face charges. And go to state prison that already put 2 of my officers out, and when they come back, we know that they're assaulted on staff. So, and do I see this getting better? No, I don't. Not with the amount of drugs and everything else out there, mental health issues. Let's be real, the mental health, when it kicks them out, they bring them to jail, and we gotta watch them. And we are not capable of housing true mental health people in the facility that we have, but yet we have to. And it's a shame because they don't belong in the jail.
Great.
Okay, again, I appreciate your time, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And anybody that ever wants to come over and take a tour so I can explain this and you can see it, call me anytime, I'd be happy to take the time to do that for you. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Do that. We're doing.
Right. Okay, moving along. Next item is planning and development with James Bragg. And a few items to talk about, right?
Yes, sir. My representative to Waste Management, huh? Well, we've had an active month, or active week. So on Monday, we finally submitted a $600,000 grant application to the Office of Community Renewal for the farm worker housing. That was curtailed from $1 million to 600,000, just because of the requirements of the grant made new construction almost impossible. So we didn't want to put Rosie into the line, so that was, I thought that was strategic. This afternoon, we will be submitting the local waterfront redevelopment plan for the CFA. A big material difference from last year is that we expanded the map that includes the outlets, the village, more of the village center. It terminates at State Stand Freeman Cemetery. It also picks, by doing that, we pick up a large environmental justice area, so our match actually be reduced. That's a good thing. We also enhance our connections to Lusher Park. That makes it much more competitive. We have much more detailed budget and timeline. So our application is very strong. The importance of an LWRP is planning grant, but this actually gets the big projects, the actual shelves and run projects, the best projects. So that's very exciting. I have now that somewhat garbage has gone through somewhat of a little bit of a slowdown right now. Working with GFL, coming up with a charging station strategic plan for the county. Where would we put this? How will we operate and how will we maintain cost? So I'm working with Bob Richardson and Belly Stick Energy, so that will be going back. That's been on the back burner. Our NYSERDA Just Transition Grant, Mayor King has signed that contract, so we'll be working with LaBella shortly on that. That's for the 2 fossil fuel plants, Indeck and Morton Salt. So it's almost like coming up with an economic development and utility strategic plan. So again, $150,000 a lot that will enhance not just Silver Springs and Gainesville, but the county. So roads, bridges, broadband, that's a big win for us. as well as the town and village of Warsaw active transportation plan that I'm just finishing up the proposal that'll go out. Bob Williams from GTC is gonna send it out sometime this week. So that'll be coming around, and should have a contract for that on September, October. Unfortunately, a lot of these with the state are incredibly slow. For broadband, I'm speaking with Ryan Malone of Aerosmith. That's one consulting firm, and Marty Muggleton, Hunt Engineering, on how to come up with some kind of a strategic plan for, in September, there will be a USDA rural reconnect for broadband. What are our options? What could be, we can't afford Mercedes-Benz, but how much is the ugly tip rate to get somewhere, to get the ball moving? I've also made contact with Rosanello. She's the temporary director of Connect All for the ESD. So they're moving much slower than they anticipated. They just got their federal plan. And it's just incredibly frustrating. I don't see any of the broadband money hitting. If it hits the ground in 2 years, it'll be quick. That's the best case scenario. She's saying, don't worry, it's gonna happen. You're not, you're a little bit further behind the Livingston and Gates County, but still, it's not reassuring. And then for garbage, so the good news is the recycling that's getting picked up is up 26%. We have gotten a quote for next year, which only went up about 4%. Unfortunately, our June bulk pickup can only be described as a disaster. It really is frustrating. Recycling as well. I told Pat Martino it's unacceptable. I've asked him for kind of an explanation as to what happened, just an honest autopsy. What is going wrong? Just so we can understand that and how that will change going forward. He still hasn't got back to me on that. As a result, I said, listen, this is serious because residents are just getting very short-tempered and justifiably so. There seems to be a lack of communication between Waste Management's crews and Pat and us. So for example, on Private Road 2, if there is currently a stove or 35 bags of garbage, it's not getting picked up. One, why isn't Waste Management tagging it? And two, calling it in so we know that there's an issue so we can fix it. And if there is a resident error, we need to know so we can help them understand why it's not getting picked up. None of this currently has happened. So Pat should be giving me, he asked that we wait till after this week for the current call collection and as soon as next week to perhaps have a meeting to correct it. So,
We will have.
yeah, absolutely.
I think, given the fact that, we're looking at a 4.4% increase, I think, that we ought to be talking to the county attorney about invoking some of the penalty clause that's in the contract for non-performance. Because it is, you're absolutely right. I mean, many towns, collection is on a certain day, but in several cases, a number of cases, you don't receive your recyclable collection until the following day. So the can sits out there in your driveway, all night. But the same is true for bulk collection. You're allowed up to 3 items once a month, put them out, and they sit there. It's just abysmal. And I'll frankly tell you, in retrospect, if I had to vote again to approve this whole change order, no way. I would have not voted to approve this change order. It's a disaster.
It's chaos, so much confusion. People are trying to work with us. Just there's no communication. So Monday, I went out and I found the crews in Covington, Perry, and Castile. And initially it looks like we were in good shape. I went out again last night and things still aren't getting picked up. So things in Castile, things in Perry, I didn't get up to Covington, but I had certain landmarks, okay, there's a stove here, there's a vanity there, there's some rolled up carpets, they're still there. And it's just, and I asked Patty, well, I understand machines break, people call in sick. Just give me an honest answer so that when people call and they're upset, I can convey an honest answer. I don't think he understands that I'm kind of caught in the middle, as a toothless dog. And I'm doing everything I can. I've even gone out to people's homes to say, we take this very serious. I want that mattress picked up and picked up on the correct day. Should not have to sit in front of your yard for 3 months. And also, if something isn't getting picked up, they need to know why or how it can get picked up. That's all I'm asking for waste management. It's just when it's a bad horror movie, just when I think we've kind of cracked the nut and move forward, something else just be more setbacks.
You deserve better service by far.
Then, of course, I have a fireman's RFP. And we're still on 2-man pickup. Sure, I've never changed. I'll get somebody else. I talked to the guy, he's been the same guy at our trash shop for 15 years. Apparently, there's been some change in the ownership or management of the company somewhere along the line in waste management. He told me that it took about 1.5 years to 2 years for them to destroy the company. Now, this is from a guy who works there. Martino's the front man.
Right.
He's got it down. He's trying to, pass things up where he can. Sure, but they're the ones that created the one-man truck with the, and obviously, it's not a proven success.
By no means.
So, and I don't know what goes on around Bristol County, but I know what, I never.
Well, I mean, if you've got a transfer station, better stick with it, and because
Main road, why fix it?
exactly.
I mean, prior to our conversion, we received 3 or 4 complaints a week. It's a lot. I'm averaging anywhere from 7 to 15 a day. Yeah. And they're very labor intensive. And
You're on the bottom of the garbage truck around, you're supposed to be writing grants, not.
yeah. I mean, well, and that's a tough thing. So just sometimes I feel my brain is like scrambled eggs. So I'm working on a grant and someone calls and there are rates and we have to take it serious. So it's a death by a thousand neighborhoods.
And just wait, another 3 months, we have snow flying and plowing roads. Watch out, those cans will be all over the place.
Well, and I keep on hearing the famous words, don't worry, Jim, it's gonna be okay. Things like that would be terrible. So that's where we're at, and just.
And if I may, Jim, when we had that meeting, and probably the guy from New Hampshire as well, we had to remind them that I didn't just tell them the date that they are going to be corrected OT. Or not, because we talked about that 2.5 months ago.
Definitely thought the meeting,
Progress on that?
the upcoming meeting in August might not be the most appropriate. So we were kind of figuring September.
It's getting close.
Well, I like Dan's idea about the financial impact for non-performance.
Right,
You don't do the job, we're not paying you.
sure,
Usually that gets everybody's attention.
absolutely. Hit them with some financial penalties for non-performance, absolutely.
Gotta be a contract, and there's, gotta be
More
more
than
than
that 4.4% increase,
for what?
I mean, I feel bad for some of the residents of the Village of Perry. They're very aggressive with how their garbage is put out. Very efficient. So a few folks that were left and were told, leave it out, it'll be collected. Well, they got a $70 fine because the village picked it up before Waste Management. In Bennington, there's been some just systematic miscollections where residents are like, well, I didn't get 6 weeks of service. Why should my fee be prorated to make up for that non-collection. So we're starting to get into really just sticky points, where I understand the first month or two, you're getting the roots ironed out. But we're at a point now where this should be, it should not, we should be getting better at that work.
Should be automatic.
Should be better. And it is not, because most people are very reasonable, if you tell them, like, this is when things will happen, they understand. They want this gone, just, they just want to ask.
Okay,
This is not what I hired, right?
But nevertheless, in spite of all that, we are getting things done. I wish I could be more. One of the unfortunate tragedies of the June bulk disaster is I was not able to get the CFA for a county comprehensive plan. All just, it was bad. June was bad, like the July 4th weekend, bad. The lake, just people, it was Fukushima nuclear. So all for 2 weeks, just getting that cleaned up, getting people to a point where, again, I don't want this to become a problem for supervisors. So kind of, de-escalating the situation. I feel like I'm a hostage negotiator in the Mideast.
sure.
And I understand, like I've gone out to a few homes and their houses are spotless and they have all this mess and people coming in for holiday. It's unacceptable, just, we'll give them information, yes, okay, I've been told by the crews this will be picked up on Thursday or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the next week, it's still there. Why aren't we giving more, a realistic expectation? Don't tell me what I want either, tell me what I need.
And James, this is, this whole waste management collection was not, we didn't want you to be the point person for all of the plates, because we have other things that,
And I understand, this is the work, I know that this is a vacation, so you do things you don't sometimes want to do, so I get it. This needs to be done, let's get it done. So that's why I'm here, I understand it. Give me a hand out where I need something, this is my job, and I will get it done. And again, I don't want any of this to become any problems for our towns and villages.
we definitely applaud you for your effort, so. Okay,
And that's,
if you have a couple more
Yes.
items on the agenda, if you
Okay, the
have
agenda.
appropriation for the small cities grant that you have to vote on.
yes, this is.
The CDBG grant.
Yeah, so this was awarded through the Lyman County BAC. The grant was awarded last year, and they have until next June 23rd of next year to expend the funds. The grant is focused on agribusiness, tourism, recreation, hospitality, but they are taking applications from other small businesses. To date, they have awarded 6 businesses to $20,000 each. There's 2 more applications in the queue, making a total awarded amount of $160,000. Of the $300,000, $45,000 is administered for the Harrison Group. That's Harry Sickerman's office. And there's a $255,000 used for the 12 grant fund. So that's where they're at.
Who's administering all this?
Jen Ryan.
And someone care to make a motion to approve the appropriation? Okay. Supervisor Roberts. Any further discussion? Favor? Then the next item that I have is the review of a secret coordinated land agency for the Kennedy
Yes.
Road Tower.
So there's a emergency management tower for the town of Castile. Due to its height, it is a type 1 action and going to establish the agency. Once the agency is established, we'll issue a neg deck and go from there.
Is this a new tower?
It is a new tower, yes.
Okay. Because there's a replacement of the tower on Kelly Road. EOS tower.
It's actually free, you know, this is one of the,
I see.
you guys,
Right, okay, because Tony submitted the seeker form to the town and we ran it up to your office to get out of the August agenda. I didn't know who was acting though, the lead agency is that for that, is the county.
Your planning board will be there. The only thing is that for this one, it's county owned property.
Right,
Unlike with the tower you have in your town, it's a lease deal.
I see,
So it's, who has to be the agent, it's different, and it's a lease deal than this deal. So here we're a county level. So we don't allow the county level to the agencies, our county planning board and the board of supervisors.
when I've seen these done in other locations, is there a protocol for notifying the adjacent towns around Perry or Cascade?
We can do that as an interested party.
Yeah, it's under the Title I, we have to notify all interested parties, so if there's anybody within that 500-foot rule, on an adjacent landowner or municipality or state, county, DEC, whatever, there's usually a list a couple dozen launch that we got to know.
Mostly it's from a visual standpoint. Yeah. Okay. Then of course you gotta go to the FCC.
Yep, so that, so this went to FCC, DEC, Department of State, DOT, Ag and Markets, Perry Central Schools, Department of Public Works, Town Board of Trustees, and SHPO.
It is Mike Say doing the construction. Mike Say communications.
Right.
All right, so the next step for this is to go through your committee. Because I didn't see this one on your agenda.
No, you won't, because it's on county land.
I see, okay.
I don't think there's action that we need to take here, right? Because that came to us as an FYI, like,
Yeah, just-
it came from Mario's office, so.
That's interesting because the Kelly Road, we have to go through the ZBA. And we've got to go through, a area variance and then a special use permit. But I think that mostly that's due to the proximity to the road and utilities. I mean, that original tower was within 50 feet of the road. Right. And now the new tower is going to be 80 feet to 260 feet, so. But, yeah.
So you guys are following your own procedure then to do that, because it's a lease owned piece of property. Because this one here, the county owns it.
So under the theory is the county.
Sure.
Don't have it.
Well, the only other requirement that we had is that the county was successful in the negotiation with the landowner for the lease. But Tony assures me it'll be coming through on August agenda for finance or whatever. Okay, so no action required here. This is it, for,
I believe so.
okay.
Thank you, sir.
Perfect. All right, Don, I believe you're next.
All right.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is your monthly report for May. This is included in your package. Anything you care to highlight there? So you're getting more permits issued?
Yep, get more permits issued, the activity's picking up now, getting after year entered. So we should be on target for the numbers that we need to be and anticipated revenue to hit. I think we should put close to the end of the year.
We need to fix the numbers on your budget. The resolution we passed was 153 on your budget, you still got 169 in the budget. Total expenses.
That hasn't changed for the resolution.
So that's the budget. Because that's the set budget.
But the resolution we passed forward in the budget here 2 months ago says 153. When you change the numbers.
when he changed his revenue prices.
Right, he changed revenue prices, but he changes expenditures too, because he's moving somebody over into buildings and codes, and not in all zoning.
And Janice left, so.
And we did not change the resolution on that proposal.
What we voted on, it said 153 for your expenditures. We voted $16,000 from the original. But you still have the original numbers in there. The one that we voted on, got approved in May is 153, to my knowledge, not 169. And you're still at 169 on your paperwork.
And right, we didn't redo that resolution to reflect that. That was a change after the fact. Proposed after we found out that there was a tax parcel calculation that was done wrong for the extra building. So I came in later with another proposal on how to correct that. And then since it was midway through the year, Janice thought it would be beneficial to not change it in this of the year from what our original correction was.
But, I mean, the bottom line is your rate is still the same, 5.91.
Yep.
Okay. So the intent is to fix it when you propose your 2023 budget, correct?
Correct,
Am I correct in my assumption? It's the difference between the question is,
What's the question?
What are you
the
assuming?
question is, we approved the resolution.
What's the budget for zoning this year?
He was requesting the total budget, we came in at 169. And he's questioning
The resolution,
questioning the change to 153.
2 months ago, the resolution we approved at the monthly meeting was 153 for a total budget. Because he was moving somebody part-time out of zoning into.
And on paper, you're not gonna see what he's talking about. Because we're not, he can move people anywhere he wants. There's no justification behind it. I know someone just started doing a time study. Lisa, is there anyone else doing a time study?
No, she's the only one.
She's the only one you're splitting. That's not true.
What was that?
You've got one of the zoning officers that are splitting.
They that's what,
I know, are they split correctly by time study?
yes,
That's the question.
yes.
They're time study.
The new one doing the time study now is Lisa here.
No, the zoning officer.
So I'm into a year 3 with their split, and you want.
We've been doing the budget wrong for 3 years, since zoning started. And so that's why I said we needed to get them to do some time studies, so we have a good, reasonable, justifiable dollar amount that cannot be disputed. So if you got anyone who's working in more than one department, we need to get them to do some time studies. We've talked about that for a while.
You're asking us to do time studies for 13 people.
Because everybody's.
You don't have 13 people split between departments.
So, yeah, there isn't anybody in that office over there that's not staff sharing
That's not what.
in some way, staff sharing in some way.
Staff sharing.
Okay. To be honest with you. But what department doesn't? We all
Well, most departments, you have time studies if they are. So public health, they time study. And they charge themselves to wherever they're going. And programs,
do. Okay.
social services does the same thing. They charge themselves to certain programs.
And grants, that's how they.
So,
they measure grants.
DA is the same way. So there's no other way for us to get a number for Ryan or for whoever that's a reasonable number if you don't have some sort of time study
to get an idea exactly of what they're doing. I mean, yeah, we all help each other out. We're all working with each other all the time. I don't consider myself part of the board because I work with Cheryl all the time. She doesn't consider, but that's stupid. I mean, I work with the treasurers all the time. It doesn't mean I work with everybody all the time.
Right, so how do you, right.
Yeah, I don't. That's my job. So if you've got someone answering phones on 2 lines, whatever, whoever they're hired under. I was gonna say, maybe I just come over, I spend some time tomorrow, or not tomorrow, I don't know, next week sometime. Because I know the budgets are due, they have to be in, and they need to be reasonable.
We have some time study going, we were reaching out to you to hopefully come over some of that budget crunch with us whenever you have time. So that when we get something submitted, you're comfortable with what we're submitting this year, so that we can show what we're.
Yeah, we definitely, I need to talk to some people.
Yeah.
Because I know there's people in your office I've never talked to, so they must be doing building codes.
Right.
Because I've never talked to them. But I feel like, that's why I asked that they would do time studies. I know Lisa has.
Yes.
So we need to get a good idea of who's doing what, where. Your building codes officers are doing zoning. Except for the zoning one that you got split, that we need to split.
Right, because they're certified in building code.
Right. We need to know if there are 60% building codes and 40% zoning.
It's easier to explain when you see the setup. And the reason the zoning officers are cross-trained is because we have property maintenance. And we have local land use regulation, which I covered on why they have to be cross-trained.
I get that. I get that.
Okay, so
But that's a building code thing.
it's a building
It's a
code.
building code, in the New York State code, is building
It's a
code.
building,
Maintenance is building codes.
not always.
All right, so we'll do little interrogation, investigation. We'll look at you guys have weird equipment that I'm like, why are you paying for their equipment? What's going on? So we're gonna have this all figured out. So maybe Friday, I don't know.
Well, I mean, the other thing is when we were in the throes of the waste management collection, I think some of your staff was also, so,
They pretty much, that was.
yeah.
We had Lisa,
There wasn't anybody that wasn't answering the phone.
it was all hands
So-
on deck.
I mean, I would anticipate that maybe next month you'll come through and say, yeah, Janice, you've gone over, taken a look, this is what we need to do, and
Well, by next month, the budgets have to be
Yeah, we need-
in the system, so yes.
yes, so.
But like I said, like upstairs, you've got real property, and you've got assessments sitting up there, everyone kind of works together, but there's a clear line. There's a clear line of who we charge where.
And you know,
And I guess the way you look at it is, do I need this person for building codes? Then they're charged for building codes. So Megan up there, she's charged to real property. She does assessment work, but she's got to be there regardless. She's not working extra hours. That's kind of the way you look at it.
so I mean, Don, it's important to have a good solid set of numbers, particularly for 2023. That the committee and the supervisors can have confidence in, because they make decisions about whether or not to join your program, based on the numbers that you're providing. So kind of heads up that we'll be look at those.
Yeah, we have a plan in place. I just want to make sure that, Janet's comfortable with what we are proposing. We haven't ready to show yet, but we also want to go over it with you before I'm plugging it in. And do this, we have to change it later on for whatever reason.
And then would that satisfy you?
I just want to see some clear numbers, and I'm still under the contention that we approved the budget in May, or I believe it was May. The resolution that we approved, I don't have it with me today, I should have brought it, I'll have it tomorrow. It was 153 for his budget at zoning.
Sure,
And the statement, monthly statement says the budget's 169.
169.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the point is that when I asked, why did you move your numbers? The statement was, we moved somebody over, I'm sharing one of the zoning officers in building codes. So the 16,000 they took off of the budget for zoning should have went into the budget for building codes.
We already had that person, so.
Yeah, we didn't move anybody over for that resolution. I'll scan that in and share it with Cheryl and send out.
I know what he's talking about, the numbers didn't match.
Right.
The numbers didn't match your actual numbers, whatever you presented, the numbers didn't match. That, I mean, that's the long and short of it.
I believe you this.
Friday, are you both around Friday?
I will, yes.
Are you or are you not allowed to drink beer on your lunch break? That's just a wall of ice. I'm just kidding. Stay.
No beer, but a whiskey soak cigar.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right.
All right,
See, Papa.
anything else on your monthly
No,
summary? Okay. Then you also have your Venus income statement, cash year. Anything you want to highlight in that? I think it's pretty complete. Just what it is, right?
Yeah.
In terms of your revenues and so on. So that's included in your package as well. If you want to highlight it there. No. Good. Okay. All right, so anything else you want to cover for us today?
Just one other thing, I'll just cover what's going on with some potential changes to what's happening with some of, how it will affect possibly some of our local land use regulations. And with some of the, things that I know Jim's been working on, talking about upgrading infrastructures like EV charging stations and things like that. So there's a lot of regulations coming in due to global warming, right? Hot topic we're going to hear more and more of. So the EPA in 2021 put out a whole bunch of regulations dealing with everything from vehicles, and all kinds of stuff is being produced by plants that cause all kinds of emission controls. Things that will affect everything from what we're going to do with vehicles, the heavy and light duty truck emissions will start in 2027. But there are things that are going to affect a lot of the local things that we had even during construction, even down in residential homes. So companies that are producing things for air conditioning, refrigerants, fire suppression, solvents, foam blowing, foam spraying, equipments, things like that. It may affect potentially, and will, how we do construction on residential, we do with wood construction. So a few things that have happened involving of the code so far. We have right now, every house that gets built, you have to do air exchange units in every house. So somehow you have to provide air exchange for makeup air. That's required in anything that gets built, and that's been in effect for a couple of years now. So solar ready homes, you build a house, I have to have a piece of roof that faces south and it must be solar ready and wired to do so. So those are things that are in place now. Things that are coming in the very near future, we're going to sprinkler 1 and 2 family homes. Products that are being used in the houses, once these EPA regulations come into effect, you'll see products, a change in what we have for products and how we construct the house. So insulation products will change. I don't know where it's going to go. But when we talk about building a lot of infrastructure into the houses, EV charging stations may become an actual requirement in the National Electric Code and the residential code. So there's a lot of new stuff coming. How will that affect the local land use regulation? When there's going to be a change in what we have for production facilities and what they have to do to change their stuff, we may end up changing our local land use regulations to keep up with those changes in order to see where we want these facilities located or not located. Or maybe open up where we want to locate it, where we didn't possibly think of those before, depending on the types of emissions they generate and or don't generate anymore, right? So just some things to think about for the future of what's coming up. But I mean, Jim's working on these other grants, you know, you keep seeing this other stuff. Why are we working on those grants? We're gonna have to. You know, that infrastructure is gonna have to change. We gotta get ahead of that curve. So when we're researching stuff like this, whether on my end or Jim's on, both of us together, you know, even with Jim Pierce talking about all this stuff, we know it's coming down the pipe. We have to be ready for change and start acting on stuff now, so we're not ready to, you know, coming in for a law that you hear that the sheriff got a week ago, and now we have to build a new jail. You know, we're trying to be ahead of that curve, 5-10 year plan ahead of time. So just some stuff that's coming up, and we got to get ready for it. But you know, it's stuff you have to check into daily to find out what we hear and what's available when we're working on this stuff. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that stuff. And that was our great. Okay.
Thank you. Anything else for now? The last thing that you have is, you should have a letter in your packet from, Megan Grayson regarding the solid waste management committee. And the upcoming hazardous household waste collection, and there's an electronic collection, so welcome to make your appointment online. It'll be Saturday, September 17th, in Batavia this year, 9 to 12:15, open to all residents of Genesee, Livingston, Wyoming counties. And there's the free electronics collection September 24th in Batavia as well. So for electronics, so that nature, you can. So that's in your packet as well. Anything else to come before planning? We are adjourned. Thank you.